Hello dear viewers, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to revision time. Today in our video we will be studying about ledger posting. We will be understanding what is the ledger, what are the uses of ledger, format of ledger, and we will understand about posting in ledger. Before we start, let us have a brief understanding about the ledger. Before we read the definitions and meaning, I'll give a brief about what is this ledger and how do we record and classify the transactions in our ledger. In our previous videos, we have studied about recording of transactions in our journals, and we recorded only those transactions which were related to business and were expressed in monetary terms. Now, these journal entries are classified under particular accounts and then posted in ledgers. Now, what is this ledger and what is the need of posting in the ledger is that a ledger is basically, we can say, it's that we record transactions under specific name or particular account. All the transactions which are of specific nature are classified and recorded under one head. Every ledger relates to a particular person, asset, expense, or revenue. The most important function of ledger is that it sorts individual transactions into separate individual account. Here we prepare separate cash account, purchase account, sales account, debtors account. Now when we were recording it in journal, we recorded all the transactions together, all debit credit accounts we recorded together, and at end we found out the total of transactions that took place during a particular month. Now all those transactions, from all those transactions, we are classifying all the accounts which are of similar nature, all cash account, all purchases, all sales, debtors, creditors, our assets, liabilities. All the accounts which are of similar nature are sort out into individual separate account. Why do we do this? Why we have to post it into ledger? After posting it into ledger, we can find out the balances of a particular account, and our accounting process is carried out very smoothly. We can next prepare trial balances, income statement, profit and loss account, and balance sheet. So after recording all the transactions together into journal accounts, we are classifying similar entries and posting them into our ledger. And we are posting both debit and credit entries in our ledger. So companies that use double entry system of accounting uses this ledger method of storing their financial data. So every transaction that impacts at least one debit and one credit transaction is our double entry system. So there are two columns like our debit and credit column, and whose total must balance. So ledger is the foundation of our financial statements. We can say that ledger is the foundation of our financial statements because the transactions are closed and summarized in ledger, and the accountant then generates our trial balance, and the report of each ledger account balance is presented in our trial balance. So this is why we post the transactions in ledger. Now let us read out the meaning, understand about the format of ledger. The ledger is the principal book of accounting system. So as we have studied that the journal is the book of original entry. All the transactions are first recorded in the journal, and now ledger is the book of is a principal book of accounting system. Here what we do, we are classifying the accounts based on the similar nature, and from here all the account balances we then proceed to prepare trial balance, income statement, and profit and loss account. A ledger is an account in an accounting refers to a book that contains accounts consist of records of transaction taking place in real, whether real, personal or nominal account. So here whatever ledger accounts we have recorded, real accounts, personal account, nominal account, is posted into ledger. It is called a book of final entry because the transactions which are recorded in the journal are finally incorporated in the ledger. Yes, first we record it in journal, and this book, ledger book, is called final entry, book of final entry, because next step is we are posting them in the ledger, used to store bookkeeping entries for balance sheet and income statement transactions. Now let us look into the format of ledger. So format of ledger, above we have the name of the account of which we are preparing, of which we are posting the entries. Then here we have debit side, and on the right hand side we have credit side. And on the debit side we have date, particulars, journal folio, amount, and same on the credit side, that is RHS, date, particulars, journal folio and amount. Date is to maintain the date of the transaction, particulars to write down, to note down the account which is to be debited or credited. Ledger folio is again the page number to refer in which book of journal this entries we can find out. Amount is the amount of the transaction. Same on the credit side. Let us take few example and understand about posting of ledger now. Here are few examples which we will be recording in our journal and then posting in our ledger. Today we will be just learn about how to post in the ledger. In our next video we will be studying about balancing the ledger. So first entry we have is started business with cash rupees 10,000. We know the entry here, it's cash account, debit to capital account. Being started business with cash. What is the amount here? 1 lakh and 1 lakh, right? Our next entry is cash purchases rupees 40,000. So here purchase this account, debit to cash account. If you have missed the video on recording the journal entries, attaching the link over here, please go through the video and understand about how to analyze the transactions and post them in our journals. Being purchased goods for cash. Next entry, sold goods for cash. Cash account debit to sales account. Being sold for cash. Our total of the ledger is 2 lakh and 2 lakh. This is how we analyze the transactions and record in journal. Now let us understand about how to post them in ledger. Okay, so this is the format of our ledger account. We have to write the account name over here. Next, on the left hand side it will be debit, and on the right hand side we have credit. We have to always remember that our debit entries, whatever entry we are making on the debit side, it starts with 2, and whatever entry we are making on the credit side, it starts with by. Debit entries have to be recorded as 2 and credit entries have to be recorded as by. Okay, let's get started now. So here we see first entry here, it's cash account debit to capital account. Now we are preparing account of cash. Cash account, this cash account is debited to capital account for rupees how much? 1 lakh, right? Rupees 1 lakh. Cash account, this cash account is debited to capital account for rupees 1 lakh. Let us see next entry, is there cash affected? Yes. Purchases account debit to cash account. Here purchases debit and cash is credited. Now cash account credited by we have to write for the entries on the credit side. Cash is credited by purchases account for rupees 40,000. Next entry we have is cash account debit to sales account. Here again cash account is debited by to sales account. So cash account debit to sales account. Rupees 60,000. Now we have only 3 entries. Next let us prepare capital account. So capital account, here capital account is credited to what? Capital account is credited by cash account for rupees 1 lakh. Correct? Similarly, purchase account. Purchase account, our purchase account is debited to cash account. Our purchase account is debited to cash account for rupees 40,000. Next, which account is remaining? Cash account we prepared, capital account is prepared, purchase account is prepared, cash again is prepared, cash. Lastly, sales account is remaining. Let us make a sales ledger too. Okay, so sales account, cash account is debit to sales account, which means sales is credit here. Sales account is credited by cash account for rupees 60,000. This is how we have to record all the accounts of our journal entry and then post them into our ledger accounts. We have to see whether the account has debited or credited and post them in our ledger. If the account we are recording it on the debit side, it must be recorded as to particular account, and if we are recording it on the credit side, we have to record it as by that account, by particular account. So we had a quick example on how to record our transactions on journal and how we have to prepare the ledger accounts of all the accounts affecting in our journal. This is it for today's video. In our next video, we will be studying more on ledger accounts. We will be preparing more ledger accounts, understand about how to balance the ledger account. Today, we only studied about how to record in journal, which we have already studied in our previous videos. Today, we understood how those accounts we can post them in our ledger. In our next video, we will be studying more on the ledger accounts. Stay tuned. Until then, watch the video if you have missed out of journal entries. If you have any queries, please post them into our comment box and we will solve them at earliest. Until then, subscribe to our channel, like our video, share with your friends. Happy learning.